Welcome back, everybody, to the Bustle It Podcast. My name is Mark Pavlich, my favorite host of all time, WBC, WBA, 8-time world champion, Jelena Marjinovic, and our special guest today, everybody, a longtime friend, and I don't want to tell you how long because it's that long. now everybody calls him he's a martial arts philosopher. I like to call him probably the best analytics person on the entire planet, the one and only, everybody, Robin Black.
Brother, it's nice to see you.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been a while. It has. It's crazy. We get
Yeah,
older.
but
You know?
everybody's going different directions, eh? That's what I find out in
Yeah.
life, and
Yeah.
that makes me sad, actually. You know what I mean? Because people are going and running and running. We're all running this certain direction, but it's like, oh my God! Like I saw your thing, when you were talking about, your child and your stuff, and I'm like, oh, he's all grown up now. I want to talk to him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I totally know what you mean. Like that wherever we are, wherever we connected with people and we go in other directions, that is sad.
Mhm.
When you move away from things, but it's also beautiful because it means
Yeah,
everybody is pursuing something that makes sense to them. Everybody's, we all I want out of life
Okay.
is to be doing something that makes you happy. Like if
that's
you're
right.
lucky enough to do that, what else? You're healthy and your family's healthy. What the fuck else is there?
I totally agree.
That is the
Yeah,
truth.
it is the truth, Robin.
But you
Because
know,
go ahead, Jay.
I think that like what's great about meeting people and connecting with all different people different ways is that when you do circle back and you come into each other's lives again, you can share that connection you had before, but also evolve on everything that you have done and experienced and open other people's eyes on that too. So,
For sure, and you also know that the world changes a lot. So if, I've been friends with Mark for insane amounts of decades, and the world changes a lot. And you also get these reference points in your mind. Like I know Mark understands things through his life experience, weird things that other people don't understand. He understands things about the internet and how media communicates and how people
Yeah,
communicates and love and hate and all these things from the early stages. So suddenly you're talking
oh.
about something in a modern context, knowing where somebody came from because you were there with them.
yeah,
And it's
No.
crazy how many different lives. I mean, I'm 44, so I'm like I was the start of the kind of whole internet generation, YouTube,
yeah.
all of the things. And it's crazy the lives that we've experienced from now, like where the youth is, where this is normal for them to communicate like this, where I'm like, when Mark and I talked about this podcast, I'm like, well, how does it work? I'm like, how do we get, he's chilling. He's like, you're not that old. He's like, we just dial people up, we get them on the screen. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Yeah. And what is really interesting, like if there are 23-year-old founders making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month
It's
running
nuts.
businesses, it's
It's
wild.
nuts now.
But
Yeah.
but the smart ones know that they need a Mark Pavlich, somebody who's in their 50s or their 40s who has a life experience. So life experience actually allows you to see something that's happening right now that a 22-year-old's experiencing that they don't realize is cyclical, or you've seen through radio and television and
Yes.
so forth. Like that,
For
that
sure.
life experience, being aware and connected to the world as it is today, but bringing decades of life experience through other cycles of things is a super valuable skill right now. It's a very valuable skill.
I think it's
But
like it's an invaluable skill,
it,
right?
it,
Because
Yeah.
it's really hard to get that life experience now. Like you've lived how many different lives? I mean, you were a rock star at one point, then an
you
MMA
you
fighter, and
really
now
have,
analytic.
Robin.
Like,
You really have when you think about it that way. Like you've had like portions, like sections, and like you were like this person, and then you were that person.
Hmm.
It's like all the way
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
but I
It
think
makes
that's
more sense now than it did at any of those stages.
Yeah.
And that's what you kind of hope out of life, right? Is that things become more sane as you age, and there's a contextualization that makes sense of it. When I'm, at certain periods, I'd be wearing a tap out toque, fighting a guy in a cage, and somebody would put up a picture of me wearing eye makeup, giving the finger and rubber pants, going, how does this make sense? But today it makes sense because the process of the
Yeah.
learning through all of those things brings you to a point where, the life experience and the knowledge that you have makes some sense in the context of where you are, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. You just have to kind of figure out what that path is. And, like for me, I played all kinds of sports and then I played basketball. For a hot second, played basketball at University of Alberta, blew my knee out, and then accidentally fell into boxing. And so, like, for me, I believe that when a door closes, something else, a window opens, another door opens, a crack, and it's your choice to, really get into it and accept that life changes and to accept those changes as you go helps you evolve into the person you're meant to be. For me, that's my view on life.
It
And
makes total
so,
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so,
I'm
when
curious
I was,
for you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but at the
no, you're
point
okay.
where you are suddenly kind of, you say, fall into boxing, but there's something about fighting that is very hard to understand for some people, but very easy to understand for the three of us and many other
Sure.
people, where it's sort of a metaphor for life itself. Everything kind of makes sense when it's simplified into an exchange or move your feet or fight or overcome a challenge. Like there's a weird simplicity in fighting that makes sense, correct?
Absolutely. And it's like,
Yes.
I mean, you go back to like, it's one of the most primal things to do is to fight, right? I mean, way back in the day, we had to fight for our food, like, and we might get there
Mates.
again. We don't
Yeah,
know.
safety.
Mates too, yeah, safety, yeah.
Yeah.
Safety, all of the things. And for me, honestly, I started boxing because my dad told me I couldn't do it, like in a roundabout way. Like we were watching fights on TV, and I was like very naive to the sport, and he was like, I was like $1 million for a night. So naive, and
Yeah.
I've laughed at myself since. But I was like, one night of work like that. He's like, honey, it's not that easy. I bet you couldn't do it. And I laughed and I went to the gym within the week and I fell in love with the sport. And I think you're right. It's because it was like the simplicity of it. I loved for me, and I still love the fact that it's how hard I work is how successful I become, not how lucky I am. It directly reflects how hard I work. And it's like anything in life. I think any successful person, it comes back down to that. It's how much do you want it? How hard are you willing to work for it? But for me, it was like with these, I get to figure
Yeah.
out how hard I want to win. Like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
But don't you don't
that
you thi- don't you think, Robin, though? Don't you think, Robin, though, that it's like both sports of boxing, as they call it, the sweet science, and then of course mixed martial arts. I think as time goes on now, I think they're the hardest sports to learn, to be great at.
Yeah.
Like not
Yeah.
not just anybody can learn it, but to be great at it is so minuscule of people. Like we can count on one hand in boxing, we can technically count on one hand for MMA. Like I mean the absolute spectacular, the people.
Yeah.
And then you look at it, but you see other sports, like tennis or golf or whatever, and they're difficult sports to learn, but there's so many good people at it. In MMA and boxing, I don't see that. I only see a very small, super, super small percentage of people being great at it.
Yes, I think that happens the more something. So many of the things that we see happening in boxing or MMA is the more newer one, and then bare knuckle, and there's certain other ones that feel sort of newer or a newer kind of approach for different reasons. But so many of these things are in line with like sport over the thing and money and business. Like so, once you get to a point that you can make a lot of, and women's fighting only was way more challenging at one point because coaches weren't making money off it, and people weren't making money, so it was hard to become a woman fighter. It was hard to have
Yep.
sparring partners when you were a woman. It was hard to be taken seriously, no matter how good of a solid, skillful human you were. Is even harder. But in general, it was also that way until money came in, and then there was this streamlined system in which you could do it. And the faster that happens, the harder it is to catch up. Um,
Yeah.
50 years in the future, boxing and MMA, if it's still as popular, will be more similar to football and tennis and these things. I really believe that.
Yeah,
You
I do
know,
too.
with time that will
I could
happen.
understand
But
that.
yeah, like because more people will go into the system earlier. If you go to Russia and
Yeah.
you take 100,000 kids and you put them in sambo and they fight each other, and then you got 10,000 of them continue, and by college you got 1,000 great ones.
So
And
true.
just that systemization makes everything. Boxing is and fighting is inherently harder because of damage, and that'll
Yes.
always be there. The
Yep.
fact that I get brain damage by doing this changes a lot of things, but that's true in football too. That's true in many other sports, not all other sports. But martial arts, the longer I get into being able to build a career out of my curiosities and sharing the things I'm interested in, the more I see that fighting kind of changes dramatically the second it's in rings and cages and paid with money. You know, the UFC isn't, it's a simple example, it isn't the best level of fighting in the world. It isn't. It's the best level of fighting if we reward people for fighting a little dumb, if you chastise them for fighting intelligently, if you call them boring. Like, you start shaping fighting around money, audience perception, etc., which alters the actual fighting. And boxing is less that way, but you are rewarded often for fighting dumb. What a high level martial arts instructor would call dumb. You get rewarded for fighting that way in different ways. When that happens, it alters the organism that is fighting itself. And so the more I kind of get away from consuming narrative driven, hype driven, televised fighting product, the more I start to see the purity of fighting, and they're not the same thing by any means. The average kid who watches the UFC will tell you how good this guy that he's been told is that good, but what does he actually know about?
Yeah, you're right.
That makes great sense.
It's true, Robin, because my neighbor next door tells me that Jake Paul's the best boxer in the world, right? He's a kid. He's like, Mark, don't you know? Mark, don't you know that Jake Paul's the best boxer in the world? And I tell him, I go, listen, Hayden, he's not, you know, like, but I'm not getting in a great debate with my 15-year-old neighbor that's a world-class hockey player that tells me Jake Paul, you know, and I'm like, no, guys, no, that's not it.
But Jake Paul's a brilliant marketer. Jake Paul's a brilliant... In the world of fighting, he's 99th percentile of humans on Earth.
Yes.
But he, you know, like, you take 100 humans who beat them all, or
Correct.
1,000 even, but if you put him in a high-level fighting environment, he's 79th
my world's
percentile,
much
right?
easier. My world is much easier than yours, Robin. When it comes to analytics, mine is black, white, 1, 2.
Robin, I love that you have this conversation with Mark, because we've had this debate, Mark and I, about Jake Paul. I think for the level he's at, given his experience, he's not a bad fighter.
He's really good.
He's
really good. Is different than the neighbor is saying he's the best.
Yeah, you understand.
He's really good.
100%.
I know it's a little early, guys, but you're listening, right? I said he's not the best boxer in the world. That's all I said.
I hear you, Mark, but I am appreciating. I am appreciating your take on this as well, because Mark and I have had this debate, and I said I think he's good for boxing, and there's two ways to look at it. I think he's a brilliant marketer. He is a genius when it comes to getting the kids.
There's only one brilliant. There's only one brilliant person here.
So what I think is interesting here is we've just sort of made my point. The second
100%.
you get into the world of narrative-driven, hype-driven, televised things that are there to sell products, we end up in this conversation, which has nothing really to do with the art of fighting. Now, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with any of this. Your neighbor and every other person on earth has every right to blend all of those things into one.
Of course.
They're not specialists. They're not obsessives like I am.
No.
My job, as I see it and as I like to live in it, is to look at the truth of martial artistry. And that just doesn't have anything to do with Jake Paul. Although I like watching those. And if they came to me and said, would you like to do a telestrator gig? You're good at that. Would you like to do one of my broadcasts? I would totally do it.
Of course.
I would do it in the context of bringing to it what I do, my specialty. But I recognize that we live in a world that isn't exactly like the way I think. And that's cool. That's cool. We get to live in a world where they sell that and kids buy it and shit happens. Like that's
Mike
where
Tyson
you hit
has
no pants on, and that's really fun.
And that's where you hit the nail on the head, though, is like the kids are buying it. And what they've done great is, and this is a content-driven world now, and what Jake Paul opened the door for is the Misfits boxing. There was fights Clarissa Shields just fought on the weekend in Atlanta. And now this Zeus platform, which has like 13 or 14 million subscribers just put on this on the undercard. And I had a friend that went to the fights thinking she was going to watch real boxing. She's a boxing fan. And she watched all of these influencers fight, including Ray J. And
Yeah.
people like him. And she was like, for me, the whole experience, because, excuse me, she got into boxing because of me, and I had a gym here, and she fell in love with the sweet science of the sport. So she's like old school fan, I would say now. And so she went, and she was upset because the whole thing was taken a different way, and it was not advertised as such. She's like, I don't know if I'll ever go back to Atlanta or a Clarissa Shields fight because it was a shit show.
Yeah.
And I was like,
But I mean, if you really liked Boston or Journey, and then you heard hip hop or what, punk rock or whatever, it's the same, right?
Yeah.
We don't all have to like everything.
I agree.
It's an experience.
And it's also like the beauty of it is, and I used to find myself frustrated. Why do people think this? And this is how it should be. And they're not broadcasting this right. And now I think, well, it's great that we're all different because I have a little niche that pays for my big house and my whole life, having this little niche within it that I get to do that nobody else is all that interested in. But if there's 100,000 human beings that are interested in it and they're happy to give me $10 a month, do you know how fucking rich I am? And all I got to do is do the shit I love and they appreciate it. Like the fact that the world is so fragmented allows us all to go out and do it, find our way that we look at it, and that weird little perspective that is uniquely yours or the person watching this, that little perspective can become your entire business now because it's so fragmented. And that's a beautiful thing. That's an incredible thing.
That's a great outlook.
It is. And then you've been doing it for so long. But the thing that I see you talking about lately is the quiet room. And I want to discuss that a little more because I know when you have this obsessive gene inside you that I absolutely love. That's the attractiveness of you, is that you have that kind of like that. You'll get stuck on things, and then you go, and the Bink era, and then the analytic era, and then all of a sudden now you have this new project called the Quiet Room, and I just really want to discuss that, and there's no better person to discuss with than yourself, and I just want to know what direction you're going to go with that.
So it's the Quiet River is what it is. And River is my son. Yeah, no, it's new. So the fact that I'm working on this at all is a great compliment to me.
Yeah.
So in all of the time, like I was singing in a rock band on drugs, on a stage, in front of all kinds of people, covered in beer, half naked. I was fighting people in cages. And the process of all of it later starts to make sense. It's like, what am I doing? Like, what is any of this? I'm studying fighting. I'm studying performing. I'm putting myself in these strange environments. And what I discovered was that what I've learned about through that process is how to be calm, how to be kind of accepting of the world around me, kind of a Taoist, kind of the river of space-time is what it is. And once I kind of discovered this fairly basic way of thinking that people have thought about for thousands of years, where you see the world as it is, you accept the world as it is, and you participate in the world as it is. That took me 40 years to figure out. So I started looking, and it really did. Like, I got kicked in the head in my underwear in front of people and took absurd amounts of drugs on stage and all these places to kind of end up here. So I started kind of building a community and some courses, and I'm going to make custom content and do kind of live streams, Q&As and stuff in my own community, where I'm going to really deeply pursue this. So School, Skool, School is like a platform in the world that like kind of we're talking about, where anything that's really deeply and uniquely your own, you can go out into the world and create. School, there's Kajabi, there's all these other places where you can create your own little world. And if all you found was 140 people and they wanted to pay you $50 a month to do it, that's enough money to build such unique, special stuff just for them. That's logically where we should spend time. So I started to discover kind of how to, as I started to think about it, find serenity in a frantic world. all day long. We're scrolling. We find our. I have children now in my 50s, so this was mandatory. I figured this out.
Yes.
You know, you're holding your son, but you're busy doing another thing, and things are stealing your attention everywhere. This is the world we live in. So I started to build kind of courses and content around how to literally be present in the moment. It sounds simple, but if it was simple, we'd do it, and most of us don't do it. So
How
the
old is
Quiet
River
River is
now? How old is River now?
River's 15 months old. When my son is
Crazy.
my age, it'll be the year 2080.
Ow.
Gosh.
Ouch.
When
Don't
my
say that.
son
Ouch.
is my
Ouch.
age,
Wow.
it'll be the year 2080. So
That's
it
crazy.
started to be, yeah, isn't that fucking crazy? So it
That's
started to
crazy.
be, how do I become healthiest and mentally and physically healthiest to live long enough to be able to give and my daughter Bowie is 4.5. So
Yes.
I'm 57 and I have
Yeah.
2 babies.
Yes.
It's my job to figure out how to take what I know and pass it to them, but also for myself, so that when I'm a 77-year-old man, I'm healthy and capable and and it's a
Sure.
really important thing for me in my life. And so the process of doing it, I wanted to build something. What would I want them to know? Like, what do I think would be important to know in 2060 or 10
Crazy.
years from now?
Yeah, yeah.
And it starts with, where is my fucking brain right now? Am I sitting here with Mark and Jelena and in this moment really here? Or am I thinking about the 73 things that have stolen my attention since this morning? And
Of
when I
course.
started there, I realized that has to be the fundamental thing that I'm building for the next 5 and 10 years. And who knows what it will evolve to, but it will be based around a community. The Quiet River is the course that I built, and the community is on school. And you're right. I am obsessive, and I'm going to continue to make the things that people like, that I enjoy making, that people like to consume, but I'm also really going to focus on this for the next 5 and 10 years.
Could it
It's
go but don't you think it could go longer though? Once the community
I
starts to
hope
build.
so, but I
Yeah,
hope
but
that it evolves.
Yeah, it has to
logically.
evolve with you. It's almost
Well, I think-
impossible not to, right? It is.
But I
Yeah.
think that is such a unique space to be in, because it is very uncommon to be present. And
Isn't
I
that
have
crazy?
It is, Jay.
it is,
It is.
and it's mind blowing, because I was
Yeah.
raised to hold eye contact, to really listen, and to really feel people. I always want to treat people the way I want to be treated. So I want people to hear me. I want to hear them. I want to give and take in a conversation, not just have lecture to someone. Like, I don't need to lecture to people. I want to have a conversation, a debate, like all of those things. But that is so uncommon nowadays, because everybody is attached to these things, right? And so when people lose the art of having conversations and being present, it was very funny, because we were in Vegas, right? And I was with my trainer, and he knows Nico Ali Walsh, right? And so we were having lunch, and we're sitting at this restaurant, and the waitress comes up, and she's kind of hitting on Nico, and Nico's 25, right? And so we're like, well, we bet. And Nico's like, he's a fighter. He's kind of socially awkward a little bit, and he's lived a different life, given he's an Ali, and his mom has kept it very sheltered prior to this. So anyway, we're like, Nico, we bet you can't pick up that girl. And we kind of laughed about it, whatever. And he's like, so he goes off and he tries to talk to her. And I was like, well, did you get her number? And he's like, oh, I slid into her DMs. And Sugar was laughing, because he's like, what does that even mean? Because he's 56.
Yeah.
And
We're
he's
talking
like,
about Sugar Hill. That's
Sugar Hill Stewart,
Yeah,
sorry,
amazing. Yeah,
boxing
amazing.
trainer. So he's like, oh, well, I slid into her DMs. And Sugar's like, I don't get it. And I was like, no, that's how the kids communicate now, is through Instagram and Snapchat and things like that. He goes, well, why didn't you just ask her for a number? Because kids cannot be present, and they cannot keep that conversation.
Yeah.
And so I
And
laughed
it's less
about
awkward,
it.
though. Isn't it less awkward though, too, Jay, to ask someone to go, "Hey, what's your Instagram?" instead of asking for their number, right? That's the olden way of doing it.
Yeah.
It's
So-
funny you mentioned that, Mark,
Yeah.
because it was Mark and I was in Florida training last week, and I was walking down the street, And again,
Oh
because
yeah.
people
I was
don't
on the
have
telephone
these.
with you. Yeah, yeah.
I was on the phone with Mark. We were talking about the podcast and this and that. And I was walking down the street and a guy walked by me and I'm on the phone with Mark and he's like, "Excuse me." And I was like, "I'm on the phone," right? I had just finished training. Florida's 34 degrees Celsius. I am leaking. I am sweating. I was walking home about a kilometer home from the gym. And I was hungry and I was thirsty. And so anyway, I'm walking. I was like, "You know what? I'm sorry. I'm on the phone." Right? Like I'm in the middle. I'm present in my
Yeah.
conversation. And then I walk a couple steps and I'm like, "Oh, what if he actually like needed something and like I want to be a good human." So I was like, "Hold on, Mark." And I turned around and I said, "Hey man, like are you okay? Like or like do you need like." So he runs back over and again, I still have Mark on the phone and this guy's like, I was wondering where the Starbucks was." And I kind of laughed and I was like, 3 miles one way,
Yeah.
2.5
Yeah.
miles the other
Yeah,
way,
no
right? Like you're
seconds.
not close. And he's like, "Oh, well, can I get your number?" So this is funny you bring this up, Mark. And I was
Yeah.
like, and I was taken aback and I was like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Yeah, can I get your phone number?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not from here." My go-to.
Yeah. It's a start answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I was like, "I'm not from here." And then he's like, "Well, we can get to know each other by texting and calling." And I was like, yeah, I'm
Wait,
just not interested, but
way
thank
too
you.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
but thank you. So it's funny you say that it's less awkward. I didn't feel awkward. I was like, "Yeah, no." And then Mark's like, "Hold on, did he ask for your number?" And I said, "Yeah, he shot his shot. Good for him, but
Yeah.
no."
And hopefully he didn't feel awkward, but I think he might have.
But he might
Because
have.
Yeah.
trying and failing is tough. Although
Yeah.
somebody who asks that in that case, maybe he does that enough that the failing, failing at an ask, failing at a relationship, failing at
Yeah.
trying, failing is important. Like you got to get good at failing. You got to get good at failing in
One,
life, right? So good for him.
100%.
Yeah, I
100%.
agree.
And so when Mark says, "Yeah, it could have been less awkward if he like tried to slide into my DMs," but after
Yeah.
we laughed about it, I was like, "You know what? Good for him for
Yeah.
actually asking,
I can't
being
even imagine that,
present,
Jay. Like I
but
couldn't
being
even. I couldn't
present
even.
in a moment."
Yeah, that's nuts.
Right, which is
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
uncommon now.
Very.
Yeah.
And
We're
so
here right now talking about it. Why are we talking
Yeah.
about it? Because it's
Yeah.
rare, right? We're
It's
talking
so
about it because
rare.
it's
It's so
rare.
rare. There's people that come up and like the DM Instagram has saved a society of people that would never ask for a phone number. So you got a society of people that in a million years, my daughter's generation would never go up to someone and go, "Hey, can I get your number?" Like that wouldn't even fathom into their minds.
And I don't think like I wasn't
It's just
rude
what
about it either. So like I think
Yeah.
he like I was like, "You know what? No, I'm not interested. Thanks, but no thanks."
Yeah.
Right?
Which is
Yeah.
good. If he took that loss or that failure or that setback or
Sure.
that no on and handled it well, this is important. Like whatever he's going to do in life, everyone's got to try and fail. One of the reasons people don't try is because they're busy on the internet making fun of people who fail. So what they're teaching themselves
so
is
true.
failing
So true.
will make people like me make fun of you. I better not try. Like that action of when, the football player misses a kick or the fighter loses or somebody does anything and you go and you make fun of them. You're teaching yourself you should not try because if you fail, you will be ridiculed by people like me. Like it's the worst thing anyone can do. Failure has to be something you're okay with. Your life will be small and unfulfilling in many ways if if you're not willing to fail. You have to be willing to fail. It's really
So Mark
important.
and I have talked about this, and I'm sure you're probably on the same page. But I believe, and I personally believe that you learn failure through sports, and this is why I believe sports is very important.
Yep.
It is the first space you kind of learn to lose to fail, right? Like or learn
Yeah.
to
To
be
the
okay
hard
with
part.
it, kind of thing.
Yes, I agree. It was one of the things when I was fighting that I really, really like when I lost, but I really tried my best. Like I really prepared to the best I could.
Yeah.
I did everything physically. I was running in the rain when my opponent wasn't, and I still lost. That's tough, but it's real
Yeah.
life. It's real life.
It
And
is.
and then Eddie Alvarez has told me many times, multiple times, sometimes on camera and sometimes it's come up in conversation. He gets knocked out by Conor McGregor in front of the world with the worst performance he's ever had on the biggest night. And he
Totally.
went home, and the next day, his wife loved him, his kids loved him, and his friends loved him, and he still had his life, and it was still great. And he said that day was one of the key points to his future. And
Yeah.
you have to do it. Try and don't hold anything back and save something like, well, if I only like we trained a little harder, like everything you have and still fail. That's so important to have
You know
that
what's funny?
experience. And
What's funny? I was at the golf course yesterday, and two of the guys that are friends of mine at the golf course, they played in the club championship, right? And I was like, and they're pretty good golfers, but not that good. And the crazy part is they shot really bad, right? And they came up to me after and they're like, "Oh, Mark, I played so bad," And I go, listen, stop. I said, you imagine that you had the courage to
yeah,
go in the club championship knowing you prepared at the level you're at and did not succeed. And I said, I got to stop this once and for all.
yeah.
Like, why are you coming to me telling me you played poorly when it's not necessary? You had the courage to go in this and do this. To me, that is like you're ahead of 98% of the people that didn't go in the tournament. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you should take great pride in that. They looked at me like I was Gandhi. You know what I mean? And I was like, no, guys, no,
Yoda.
yeah, Yoda wasn't my intention. But I'm like, I'm so sick of it. I think maybe you get to that age where you go, wait
Yeah.
a second. It takes courage to get into the cage.
Yeah.
It takes courage to get into the ring. It
But
takes
when
so
you're
much
talking,
courage to put yourself out there because, as you said, people are going to criticize you regardless if you played great or not played great. Jelena, you had how many title defenses where people still criticized you after
oh,
knocking people out? It's insanity. It's
yeah.
Robin. I was there when you took on the MMA career. And people are like, "Oh, what is he doing? What is he doing?" Like he's an analyst. This and that. I'm like, no, like, can you imagine the courage it takes, especially when people are looking at you? Like, I commend it. I cannot, I don't care what the result is anymore. I'm like, wow, you
The
actually put in the effort to do it.
Yeah.
And the story.
Thank you, brother. Thank
Yeah,
you,
it's
brother.
true though.
The crazy thing about it is, if you could explain, it comes to me sometimes when I'll see, it's probably only 30 people, but I'll see, just in case you get knocked out. And now he's
Yeah.
won whatever title in whatever
That's
White
right.
House,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I made a piece of him on an analysis piece, and he collabed it, and it was on his page. And then
Awesome.
after he got knocked out by for the BMF belt or whatever, Max
Yeah.
knocked him out. And I'm looking in there, and there's, let's say, 50, maybe it's 100 comments by people making fun of this guy.
It's
And I
crazy.
remember thinking, you know, that whatever you would think when he actually wins later, the only way to that path is through this loss,
You're
right?
correct.
Is through failure.
Yeah.
Failure is a part of the path to success. If you want to be successful, you must fail a whole bunch of times. Or I remember when Nick Diaz, one of the like true great fighters that comes from a sort of a visceral world that's not, really meant for the business and the culture and the sport and the mainstream of the thing. And he goes in and fights in his last fight. And then after, in the round 2 or 3, he says, I can't do anymore. And people have never done anything in their life, and I'm not judging them, it's just sort of done anything by comparison, are making fun of him. And it's like, for quitting. And my thought was, do you know how many times in life you have to not quit? Thousands, millions, daily, every training session, to not quit, to get to a place where you surrender in a cage fight on national television in front of everyone. You have to not quit hundreds of millions of times. I mean,
You're correct.
hundreds of, I don't know what number. In immeasurable number of times you have to not give
Correct.
up. To ever be in that environment, to eventually surrender. That is how you live a life of meaning, is by facing those obstacles and then failing. But if I could explain to somebody, when a friend, Mark Pavlich, who's a success in the business, or George St. Pierre, who's a dear friend, who's one of the, and I was talking to him on a stream, and George is sitting there saying the kindest things about how I inspire him. You're fucking George St. Pierre. I'm a guy with an Elvis bust in the background, right? But he means it. And you would trade 100,000 comments on Twitter by people who don't understand this for a single compliment from Mark Pavlich today. And that's the truth. And if people could understand that, they wouldn't put any value into that kind of thing.
Do you have to get here, Robin? Do you have to get this far in life to understand what you just said? It's not, you deal with like, kids that will tell you, like, they'll come up to me, oh, Mark, they said this about me. They said this. And I really try not to give too much advice because I'm like, I experienced the same thing you did when people talk bad about me. So I said, how did I deal with that? But the problem was, it seems like you do have to go through it and figure it out to have this conversation at this age today.
I think you have to come to an epiphany where people's opinions don't matter. And
it actually is an epiphany.
I think I was very, very fortunate.
I was going to say please.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No,
Robin.
please. I want to hear your
story. I was fortunate that I had this epiphany about people's opinions being like assholes, and everybody has one. I was fortunate that I came across this. I lost my 10th fight. So I was crushing people first part of my career, and I lost my 10th fight, and it was only because I let keyboard cowboys, is what I call them, the people behind the screen or with the pen in hand who have never done anything athletic in their entire lives. I let them alter my mindset, right? And I had to wake up the next day. It was my 10th fight, and I had to read all of the blogs and the messages, and Jelena is just a paper princess, and everything has been bought for her, and everything's been paid for, and she's not that good, and blah, blah. I read every single comment.
Yeah.
And I was depressed. I was devastated. I was like, people don't know my life. Like, they don't know my dad doesn't actually support my boxing at all. Hates it, and I can understand why, but they don't know that every single fight my family tries to get me to quit, and they don't understand the burning desire inside of you to do what you do and want to do it great. Like, they don't see the battles that I have behind closed doors just to do what I love to do and something that I'm great at. And so I was feeling sorry for myself after a loss, and I wasn't hurt, and I actually turned around and won the fight rematched and won 3 months later. But at that moment, I had this epiphany to myself, and I was like, these people are just jealous. Anybody who gets behind a keyboard and makes a comment and makes a statement, who judges me with not knowing my life, not knowing what goes on in here or in here, those people are just haters. And they're jealous, and it's because they can't do it themselves.
So I'll take it a step further right here. And that is, so let's say you are a human being, driven, obsessed, do everything human possible, work, but it's all your effort, right? Your effort works. Through your effort, you accomplish things in your life. Or, on the other hand, I can tell myself, she's a paper princess, everything was handed to her, that she didn't earn it. Which one is going to make me, the viewer, feel more comfortable? Through effort and hard effort, you can change your life. And therefore, if Jelena's doing it, but it's truth and proof that can happen, but here I am with a shitty life, I don't like that one, because that one means my life is my responsibility. If instead I say, oh, she was given everything was placed there for her, she's been, everything, it's too easy, she's got things I don't have, I can feel much more comfortable with my life that I'm unhappy with, because I can say, it isn't my responsibility, I don't have to do all of this, Crazy. I don't have agency over my future. She got lucky, and she's been, and so it's a comfort to the person. They're not just haters. They're being reinforcing a more comfortable thing that is that they have internalized, that their life isn't their responsibility, and they don't have control over it. And they didn't do it on purpose.
The quiet river is alive now, everybody.
This is what I'm working on.
The quiet river is alive this very second.
Yeah.
How that was just broken
that a
down.
Shitty way to live your life?
No,
it's
but
true.
what
we said earlier, do you have to go through this? And we went through it.
Yeah.
The reason I'm making a community to share things with people is in hopes that by going through it, I gained some wisdom that I can find a way to share with someone that'll give them some value. that
Different
just what I
perspective
said
on
there.
different
Yes.
things. Yeah.
What if you heard that and you thought, oh, fuck, this guy just pulled this out on me? And maybe that it is maybe I can change my life. Because
Oh,
where
you
could you
mean I
even
need to be
start?
accountable in life? Like
Exactly. But where
accountability
can
is
you even
key.
start? If you're
Yeah.
trapped in your bedroom and you really truly believe you have no control over your life, the
One
beginning
foot
has to
in front
be
of the other.
you got to start with believing it's possible.
Yeah.
And if I look at you or someone like you and I acknowledge that you did this through your hard work and hard work is possible to change your life, I'm in a better place than if I say, "See, she had it all given to her and I don't have those chances, so therefore this I'm stuck
True.
here."
It's
But people do
true.
it. People
It's
do
And
it.
you
true.
know, it is crazy that like we're not the first people to talk about this, right?
Yes,
Like,
that's
you
right.
know,
Yeah.
there's the same thing, the
Yeah.
Tony Robbins, the like there's a lot of speakers that have
Yeah.
made, you're right, a lot of money talking about something similar, right?
Yeah.
I absolutely love the way you just broke it down.
Yeah.
And it's the simplicity and everything. And it is a different perspective, right? I think sometimes you just need to shift your mind. It's not that complicated. Like, you know, you
No.
just have to keep it simple,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
and sometimes you do need to hear it 49 times because you heard
Yeah.
49, you heard 500 times that you're never going to amount to anything and you're going to be stuck here. Because some people who are on the internet angry at you, you heard that. And so they get
Yeah.
stuck
Yeah.
there. And they may need to hear it just as many times
I
that
totally
it's
agree.
possible.
Yeah.
You know, and it is possible. Like, especially now, God, like the
Oh,
tools
yeah.
and
Volume
the
up.
tools are there to change your life just in your cell phone. I mean, you got to do it. You got to believe
Yeah.
you can do it. You got to start doing it. You got to do small things every day, but you can do it. But that's a harder
Come on, guys.
pill to swallow.
Kids are killing themselves. Kids are killing themselves from this. We're talking about how our feelings were hurt over all these years of people talking shit about us. But people are dying now. Kids are dying,
Yeah.
killing themselves
Yeah.
over stuff like this. See, we
So-
read about ourselves because fans were saying this about us. Listen, I've read a ton of stuff about you, Jelena. I've read a ton of stuff about you, Robin. And 99.9% of the time, it's really good stuff. But it's that 4% of people that are so vile that take over a post, and I look at it and go, it's horrible, but at the same
it
time,
is true.
there's kids now. There's kids now, Jolena. There's a post on our Facebook page
This is
about
why I
you
was
about you
laughing.
right now with like 500, 600, 700 people talking about you. One or two people said bad things, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not going down there now. I'm not going to say a word." I'm like, "Forget them, Jelena."
This is why I was laughing.
The other 498 people are talking great about you. Go speak to those people. Thank them. Tell them that, you know, whatever the case may be. But it's not about that. You imagine kids right now in high school are killing themselves because of the
Okay,
exact
so-
same thing we're talking about. And now they don't have the same capabilities that we do because we've experienced it.
Okay, Mark,
They
this is
instead
what
go
I
kill
want to say.
themselves.
I experienced this, and this
Yeah.
is why I was saying I was very fortunate to go through this experience when I was 19, 20, because I couldn't
Sure.
imagine if I waited till I was 44 to go through this.
Could you imagine?
But
Yeah.
I have a little sister, and she's 16 now, 14 years old. I was picking her up from school, and I was like, she was kind of down, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that was.
There it was you, Mark.
No, it wasn't me.
Uh,
It wasn't me.
oh.
No. It
And
was
so
Robin.
I was like, I was like, what's going on? And so it was, she said, oh, someone said this. And
Sure.
I'm like, and they think this, and they made these comments. And for me, like, I've never paid attention to bullying. I'm sure I've attempted bullied before, but like people tried to bully me. I just didn't care. So I said, Melania, like, you know, my little sister, I said, why do you care what that Joe Blow thinks? Like, literally, it's their opinion.
Yeah.
Why do you care what they think about you if you're happy when you look in the mirror?
It doesn't work like that, though. It doesn't.
And so I couldn't fathom, and I tried 3 or 4 or 5 different ways to have the same conversation. But coming from a sibling or a family member,
Yeah.
or something like that, maybe it doesn't resonate as much. So I love this, that you're doing this Quiet River, and people will have a platform to change their perspective on different things, because I think it's needed for, you're right, Mark, the youth that have nowhere to
Yeah,
go, who are
kids are literally
who
killing
are hurting
themselves.
themselves.
It's not a joke.
It's awful.
It's so crazy that kids are taking it to this level, and but they don't have someone like Robin or you in their ear going, "Hey, I've been through this 1,000
Yeah.
times. Trust me, you'll come out the other side." No one, their parents don't know about this because their parents, hey, they're just normal people, which is great. There's no problem with that. But they were never in the spotlight to be able to give them some type of advice to go, "Hey, Judy or Pete or Sam or whatever. No, man, this shit's gonna pass. Don't worry, it'll get better. I promise." But no one's there to really prove it to them that have actually gone through it.
Well, isn't it crazy? Because, bullying happened back in the day just face to face. You left
Yeah,
school,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
And then it
left
was over.
school,
Yeah, yeah.
it
Then it
was
was over.
over. You got off the
Yeah.
bus, it was over. You
Yeah,
left work, it was over. You wherever it
Yeah.
was happening. But now bullying follows these kids. And
exactly.
not just kids, adults too. It
Yeah, yeah.
happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And
Robin, there's like a buzzing a little bit on your end, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hear something. I don't.
yeah. And then when you are you
oh,
there? Yeah. No, I can't hear you now. There was a buzzing then, or wasn't. So
Do you hear me?
yeah, we hear
yeah,
you.
that's
There's no
better.
buzzing
Okay.
now. Yeah, there's no
Okay,
buzzing now.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what it was.
That's okay. Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing. Like, it's funny. We take it from here where we're at right now, but then we start to realize there's a serious problem that we're talking about. That kids in high schools and around the world are dealing with today. But it's it's literally worse now because these kids are being put on the internet. And you can do all kinds of gifs and memes and things about them, right? So it takes it to
yeah.
a whole
You
nother
can
level.
gamify or turn it into a hobby, making fun of
It's a
somebody.
hobby now for
Yeah.
people.
There's a thing that has happened in the last 10 or 15, 20 years with kind of the modern internet, where we've all been kind of encouraged to share our opinion, right? And there, of
Yeah,
course, we're all entitled to an opinion, and
Yeah,
that's a truthful statement. But
for
we're also
sure.
entitled to the freedom to actually not form one. And that one
yes,
doesn't get offered to us very often, right? Every time I don't form an opinion, every time I choose to, like, it's called, there's a name for it. The idea that I reject my knee-jerk reaction to forming an opinion, which I don't do it carefully. I don't have time in the world as thousands of things are taking place to carefully form opinions. They're kind of the one that just take shape based on my
yeah,
life experience, whatever I've
yeah,
been indoctrinated into, things I've seen before, and sometimes just at random. I can reject that opinion. And by choosing to reject that opinion, I can more deeply see what is, right? And that's a big one for me. And if I do that,
I like
suddenly
that.
over time, I have less opinions and I'm less bothered by other people's opinions because
Yes,
the value of an opinion becomes less and less important. In
yeah,
fact, getting rid of my opinion, we go in to fight somebody and I start forming these opinions. Okay, he always jabs on this rhythm. I just make that shit up based on a little bit of pattern recognition that I just took into account. If I get too attached to that, now I'm going to believe something that isn't so.
yes,
Right? So we can learn that in a fight itself. If I start having an opinion about how this fighter always fights, I could base that on 2 videos I've seen of them, which is how they used to fight, not how they fight today, how they used to fight. I can base it on those 2 fights where they weren't fighting the way they normally do, or they had a sore knee or whatever. But I start forming an opinion based on what I think is true, and I start behaving as if that opinion is true, and I get punched in the face. And life is like that. I go through the world, I form an opinion, I start acting as if the opinion is true, and then I start behaving as if the opinion is true, and all of a
yeah,
sudden bad shit starts happening. So the more I learn to reject my own opinion, the more I learn about the world, and the more I start to realize that other people's opinions aren't really that important. It's complicated enough in here.
yeah,
What do I care about what's going on in there?
yes. Do you see
You
that,
know?
Robin? Though, do you see that people do that to you? They'll do they ever message you going, "I can't believe you made that video," and I'm the person that's getting knocked out in that video, or I'm the person getting, like come on, man, let it
Yeah,
die, let it die.
sometimes yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
generally, even somebody who's getting knocked out, the way and I believe the way I
yeah.
look at a fight is in a non-judgmental way.
Oh,
Like
it
I
is.
almost
Yeah.
rarely say this guy should have done this. Because the truth is, whatever he or she just did in the moment is a reflection of training they did 16 weeks ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's
Their,
right.
their mind is performing the way it was trained to perform. How am I going to judge that they made a mistake? They did what they learned to do. They did their very best in the moment, and this happened. And I like to look at things sort of philosophically. What do we
Yeah,
know
I
about
like that.
what this means in the world,
yeah, yeah,
rather
yeah,
than
yeah.
this guy should have pivoted? Like, and who the fuck am I to decide this guy should have pivoted? I'm not in the fight. I had
Yeah.
9 pro fights and a half a dozen other fights. I know enough to know that you don't know what the fuck is going on in here. That's true of me and the opponent's coach
Of
and my
course,
coach.
of course.
Like, so I try to look at what's happening truthfully as I can, as free of my own opinion as humanly possible, and in hoping to just glean some of the universal truths of what happened there. And that's what I try to do. And I really try. Like I really that's
Yeah.
what I hope to do. That's what I'm like inspired to try to do. And I hope I'll get better at it in 5 years or 10 years if I do a few thousand more. But it's very rare. I had a couple. There was somebody really good. I was commentating somebody really, really good. Alan Belcher.
Oh
Alan
yeah.
Belcher, who's a
I love
wonderful
Belcher.
fighter.
Love
Wonderful. I
him.
me too. I love the
Love
guy.
him. He's such a
And
G. He is
yeah, he's
such
a
a G.
brilliant,
Oh yeah.
brilliant fighter. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, G is accurate.
Well,
He's
yeah,
very smart,
listen,
very
he's been on the
inspiring.
podcast. He's been on the podcast twice, and in
Yeah,
both times, like he's playing the drums now, and then he's doing this
yeah,
now, and he's like
wonderful
he's
guy,
just like yeah, all over it.
wonderful
But it's
guy.
awesome, awesome.
Yeah, something he was fighting Junior Dos Santos, and I was
Oh
working with
wow,
Brendan Schaub, who's a good friend, and somehow in the process of it, we started to believe what we thought we saw, and he was mad. And he's not the type of guy naturally to be emotional or to respond emotionally.
he
He
is not. No,
apologized later, and so did I. But there was
yeah,
something in that process. But I took it as a learning thing. It's like I think I started talking. It's partly because the relationship I have with Brendan, as we're talking like two guys watching a fight, a little bit loosey goosey, and something in that he was messaging me saying, "You don't understand this, you don't understand that, you don't understand that," and I agreed. I certainly don't. But then I tried to also offer to him
yeah,
in the moment, any moment where a fight is happening. We've got a 3 second exchange. I could talk about what this one person did and what the other person did. But in those 3 seconds, there are thousands of things that are possible to talk about.
sure.
And through the constraints of time and my own inability and the limitations of my ability as somebody speaking and seeing and translating my thoughts, even though I've done that many, many times, if I did it thousands more, I would get better at it. So therefore today, I'm as good as I could be, but it's still limited. Due to those limitations, I could say he stepped to the right. But I can't
Yeah,
say he stepped to the right plus the 900 things about rhythm and timing and thought and emotion and biochemistry and all of those other things. So every time you choose to say anything, you automatically leave out 100 things. And
yeah,
that's just, and
That's a good
through
point.
seeing that and understanding that, I actually realize how shitty commentary really is.
yeah,
And I love to do it. So my job is to try to do it in some way that's more meaningful. And not every person will want to hire me for that because they do want somebody to say, "Oh, he got
yeah,
hit to the body. He can't take too many of those.
yeah,
Knockout
yeah,
power,
yeah,
both hands, striker versus grappler.
yeah,
The winner
yeah,
gets a title shot. Wow, it's all over." Like, if they
yeah.
want that, I'm the wrong guy. But
Yes,
if
Right.
you're
yeah,
on the same train as me, that you're hoping we can somehow more deeply enrich this, and that the audience is bored of that anyways,
yeah,
then I get that job. But through the process of doing it, I realize how limited it is. I'm looking to do it different and have for the last 200-300 shows I have. I don't believe that that's universally how commentary is being approached.
Oh, I agree.
I
So
would agree with
I
that as
agree. Yeah.
yeah,
well.
But
you
are
know.
you going to continue on with Karate Combat or no?
Uh, yeah, I think there's a lot of great things about it. The
Yeah.
the fighting is wonderful. The there's challenges of challenges associated with startups and like running a business.
Are they considered
But
a startup still?
yeah, that's a good question. I
Yeah,
mean,
like they're
it
I think they're
feels,
past the I think they're past the startup stage. Like I think they are.
yeah, maybe so, maybe so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do. I do enjoy doing it. I love the fights. There's people in the company that I really, really like, and I'm hoping I'll keep doing it. I'm hoping it'll keep evolving and stabilize and become
Yeah.
bigger and better. We've had moments where it was really big and really exciting, and I'm hoping that'll kind of continue.
I
And
think
yeah,
that's the
I
sticking.
love doing it.
I think it's a sticking point, karate combat. I think it's a sticking point. I don't think it's a startup anymore. I think it's like they're stuck. They're stuck.
Yeah,
They kind of went like this, and now they're kind of just like this. They're just planing, you know. And it's like you understand, like you have to in this sport. If you don't make like even like Julian always
You
says,
don't
like
evolve.
if you don't evolve that 1% every day, you start to plane off, right? And I think they're
yeah.
planing off. And I love karate combat, so it's like I don't understand why it's not like the marketing of it is I don't know, it's confusing to me, but it's a sport that I think we need. I really do.
Yeah. I like it a lot. And if we accept that that's true, whether we're a fighter, we're a kid running a business, we're
Yeah,
somebody trying to learn to play piano, whatever, these plateaus are going to happen.
of
Like
course.
a plateau or a challenge or even a step back at times is going to
Yeah,
be
of
part of
course.
every process. It'll be part of my process, like I said, as a martial artist or a pianist or a father or
That's right.
whatever. And so you hope that, what did Bruce Lee, there's many people said things about plateaus, but Bruce Lee said, plateaus exist, they're there, but
Yes.
you must
Yeah.
move beyond them. So learning to move beyond them can be part of that leveling up process. So if that's a stage that we're at, we hope it's brief, and I hope that it gets bigger and better, and the fights are exciting, and the shows are
It's
fun to
fun.
do, and I
It's fun.
love contributing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sam
Let's
is a dear friend of mine, and to see him reincarnate his career in karate combat has been it's been so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sam
Yeah.
Alvey, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the reason that shows like this are so great and vital is like you come along and there's been a few people dip their toe in and kind of almost be able to break through like Sam has.
Yes.
But it's an interesting time. Like if you love fighting, and I'm sure this is true if you love car racing or even basketball, there's all these connoisseur versions of everything, right?
Yes, there
At one
is.
time, somebody
true.
said, "Do you like
There
white
is.
wine or red?" And you say, "Well, I like white." And then
Yeah.
later, people said, "Do you like it from this country? Do you like this type of
It's
grape? Do
so
you like it
true.
aged
It's
this
so
long?" And
true.
fighting is
So
like
true.
that, right? Fighting is like
It
that.
is.
And
It's so
so,
true. Listen, I never thought I'd watch bare knuckle boxing until you said to me, Mark, you should really watch it. And then I started watching it, and I'm like, yeah, I like it.
yeah, there's something
I
there.
still haven't amalgamated
I
into
have a hard time.
the slap fighting thing. I can't do it, man. I think it's so
Yeah.
for me
Yeah,
personally.
that one.
I think
Yeah.
it's so
So,
no, stupid. I think it's so
Even the bare
stupid.
knuckle for me, I have a hard time watching people
Yeah,
I know do it. And I
yeah,
watched it
yeah.
live a month and a half back, and I was just like, this is just maybe it's
it's
just
too
because I
much.
watched some of the lower level ones, and I
Maybe.
was like, this
But
is too
it's
much for
boxing,
me.
right? It's
Yeah,
boxing
Well,
before they put gloves on.
yeah,
That's how people box for 100 years. And there
It
is
looked
an
more like
yeah.
a
argument.
bar
It's true.
fight.
Yeah.
It
It's
looked like
true.
a
Yeah.
drunken bar
Yeah.
fight to me,
Yeah.
but
At times they
again,
do. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
But
so
there are
it
high
was
level
tough for
people.
me.
Yeah.
I
So
agreed.
so
There
I
are high level.
commentated. Yeah. I commentated BKB in England. And this is before it was
That's right.
acquired by an American company. But when it was in England, it was the audience they didn't watch boxing.
No,
And they watched this. And these were fighters who, some of them, their father was a bare knuckle boxer and their
that's
grandfather
right.
was a bare knuckle
Yeah,
boxer.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were very high skilled. And at the high skilled original British BKB level, you'd only
Yes.
I
throw
remember.
16 punches around, right? Because we've got to protect our weapons. We
Yeah,
don't want to injure our hands. And so
That's
it was a
true.
ton of moving. It was a ton of evasion. It was a ton of make somebody miss, draw fire from somebody,
totally.
appear
Yes.
open and when you're not open. Like it was really, really, I loved commentating BKB. I loved
Yeah,
it.
I guess
It's
I guess
BKB was
you're
awesome. Like you're
and
right.
Yeah.
It
I
was
think it's
different.
like everything.
Yeah.
It's like there's levels to everything,
Yes.
obviously, and
Slap
so
fighting, I don't know if there's levels.
no,
So
I'm
they,
not.
I
I'm
had
not
serious
a fan.
conversations with Dana White and the lawyer that runs it in the early stages about it. And I don't want to say too much because I'm not trying to endorse it. In fact, I don't like it. I personally do not like it. But when the question or the conversation was happening between me and them, part of the conversation was, is there any defense to this? And is this a martial art? And in the simple context of those, I had useful information for them that they tried to kind of regurgitate. They
Yeah.
made me a small offer for me to present my information in a deck to them that I rejected. But from a strictly curious martial artist standpoint, the question is, what martial arts as, if you call it a fight, if you call it a martial arts contest with parameters, those parameters including you can't move your feet and your hands have to be behind your head, you
Crazy.
start to ask questions. Martial arts tries to evolve in ways to protect the individual. So then you start to say, how, when I cannot use my hands or move my feet or move my head, how could I protect myself? And then the answer starts to become internally through over time. We don't want this to happen because I don't want people slapping each other and giving each other brain damage. But if they did it for 40 years, eventually we would learn something between tension and relaxation in ways to be able to take that better. So there are some subtle martial truths present in there, but not enough that I want to, not only want to endorse it, I think
Yeah.
it's shit. I think it's the lowest level that we kind of have out there right now.
I totally
and I
agree.
don't think anyone should do that for
Are we
$3,000
to the
or
point
whatever
now
they pay
where
them.
we're to the point now where it's funny because I see when Dana's trying to sell it to everybody, I'm like, this is like the whole bearded lady circus routine going on right now where he's selling.
Do we think?
Step this way, everybody. Step
Yeah.
this way. Come and see
Do
the
we
shit
think
show
we're
of
doing
slap
it?
fighting.
Circus.
Okay,
You
so
know,
I have a
it's
question.
bullshit.
Do we think where he's selling it because the costs are lower and production's cheaper and
I
Probably,
think
you know,
he's doing it
all of the
in
above.
part. My opinion, and again, like I like to reject my opinion. So even as I say that, I'm like, is this an observation or an opinion?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of information available when you look at
Yeah.
a lot of influencers that are being brought there, and given access and tools being created to make it appear successful. Why would we do that when we have so many other projects? We have boxing, we have fighting, we have so many businesses. Why would we spend any effort to try to make this one successful? And the answer somewhere might be in our ego. Like, I don't want it to fail. You know,
That's
do you
fair.
still care about this? Is there anything there? It didn't, why are we doing
That's
it?
true.
You ask yourself,
That
why
is-
are we doing it? If
I
it's
find
not
it
massively
disturbing. I find it
Yeah.
disturbing, and I find it disturbing that I see anybody that had any kind of career in boxing or anybody that had a career in bare knuckle that switches to slap fighting. It is disturbing to me on all levels. It is trash.
they're just trying to get
It
that
is
bag.
trash.
No,
Like,
but
trash.
they're getting paid an obscene amount of money to get
I
slapped
don't
in the
think it's that
face.
obscene.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that
Yeah.
obscene. So
So say
Mark,
Jake
I've
Hager.
been
I'd like-
offered.
yeah.
I've been offered 20 grand more than I have in fights recently.
Yeah.
To do a slap thing, and
Yeah,
I said
I-
it's not for
Yeah.
me. My father will disown me.
Yeah.
1,000%
Yeah, of
versus
course.
like the
I just think
90% from boxing.
I feel horrible. I feel horrible for anybody that has to do it. I do.
and
Yeah, it has
then
to,
yet
yes.
look at us.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation about it.
Yeah.
but
exactly. We're feeding
that's what
it
we
right
do for a
now.
living, though. That's what we do
We're
for a living.
feeding
but
it. I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Yeah, we're
okay with
feeding
it, and
I know.
I think it is atrocious on
We're
all
all on the
levels.
same page. I said absolutely not. I said,
But
you know,
disliking something is everybody's freedom to do, right? People
100%.
dislike any of us and write it on the internet like we talked
Hey,
about.
listen, here's
us
a
to
newsflash.
Dislike this thing.
I was in Venezuela with Dave when he was a kid, and I watched chicken fighting, okay? And I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. And then people will say, oh, I can't believe Mark just said he watched chicken fighting,
Yeah.
right? It's crazy. But I watched
Yeah.
it. I was in Venezuela. I was the only white person
Yeah.
in the whole place. Me and Dave, and literally, we're watching chicken fighting. And after about 10 minutes of it, then the place is packed. crowd of people watching chickens fight. I was like, hey, this is pretty cool, man. Like, you know, like I have a reputation to go. I
Peter's
watch.
gonna be right after you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Go on.
but like I said, would I go back and do it again? Probably not. Have I ever watched on the internet again? Never. But when I was there live, someone's like, "Hey, do you want to see this?
Yeah.
We got some
Like
fights going on."
everything live.
I was
Everything live
brought,
is always more fun.
yeah, I was brought to the place, and it was absolutely bananas. Like I was like, there was thousands of people watching chickens fight. It was nuts.
Yeah.
It was an experience.
Yeah,
This is a semi-related topic, but it's kind of, I find it interesting when you look. I'm not a consumer much of the UFC anymore. I haven't watched any
Yeah.
of their boxing, and I'm not the slap fighting. Although we're talking about it, I've been exposed to it. Not really a consumer of it, but I have a
neither.
curiosity about large, powerful things like that, because the behavior of a big corporation like that is often very much like the behavior of nations in history. And when
Ah.
Rome falls,
There you
right?
go.
Rome fell because, among other reasons, they had too many small wars. They were trying to conquer too many places. They were battling. They had created too many micro enemies. And you look at that company. Why on earth would you be spending? Now, maybe you can automate so much of it that it doesn't consume that much time to put on that thing, and that's why they do it. But to fragment something and damage, so many little battles happening. You're now trying to take on boxing, which will take some attention away from your mixed martial arts empire. You're spending time on this slap fighting thing. You've got all of these other kind of businesses. That amount of sort of fracturing of your attention can't be good for any of the businesses.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's a great perspective.
Yeah.
And I think something that maybe even their own team doesn't really look at it like that way, because it's the whole greed sensation, right? Like more is always better to people. I want more money, more food, more, more everything. And it's the greed sensation until one day you're obese, falling down drunk, and just over consuming.
Yes.
There is such thing as like too much, right? At a point, and maybe even people in their own team don't see that part, or think in their own mind, again, the thing you spoke about, ego, that ego of not wanting to fail or thinking that I can do more. That, it's probably that. But I like that opinion that you just, or that perspective, not opinion, that perspective of too much is ruining.
Oh, it is. It is.
When
the
you
analogy
decide,
with Rome.
if you decide to have 3 businesses, you can totally do that.
Yeah, of course.
And especially if the reason you wanted to run 3 businesses was to be experimenting and learning and the variety, and you love doing that. But if the only goal was to make something as successful as possible, which in corporate business often is the primary goal, you're not doing it better by adding more businesses unless they feed each other. And in some ways, the argument is if you already have an in-house thing that designs marketing and does all your ads and creates all your stuff, then each business is less money. But
you just template it differently. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thought is, and this applies to all our lives, the thing called opportunity cost, right? And it's one of the things you learn when you train to fight mixed martial arts.
Sure.
If you're training boxing, you can't simultaneously be training flexibility or gymnastics, or you can't train boxing and at the very same time train cardiovascular, and you can blend the things sometimes and try to do them together. But the nature of opportunity cost is I have 11 sessions a week I can train. If I train 6 of those to improve my hands, I got to take it off somewhere. If I'm here talking with you guys, I cannot simultaneously be washing the dishes. Maybe we could try to do both, but the opportunity cost, whatever you do, you are not doing, it's what you're not doing by deploying your time to the thing. That opportunity cost applies to every human on earth.
100%.
Every person, every business,
100%.
every athlete, everything. By choosing something, you now say no to all these other things at that moment. So the big thing that comes out of that is you better fucking choose intelligently. Like you better give some real honest,
be selective,
meaningful thought. Yeah. I say no to 7 podcasts a week.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said yes to ours.
Well, Mark messaged me yesterday. I'm like, I love Mark, and I haven't talked to him forever. And
Yeah, that's the only way I can do it with him,
Let's do
because he's there, he's over there, he's over there. Then all of a sudden, I see something of his with the quiet river, and I'm like, oh, I that's so interesting to me, right? And it's like, let's talk about that. And you know what's funny too? I heard you say that too, that you don't find interest anymore as much into fights and this and that. But do you find that Zoe and River now pull you in a different
Oh
direction when you look
yeah.
at them and you go, wait a second, I'd rather just hang out with them
Yeah.
than watch this fight. And
Yeah, I wanna watch the fight, but not all of the packaging around the fight.
yeah, that's what I'm saying
And
though. But that's
yeah,
that
yeah,
is
yeah.
do
So
your
you're cutting
children
it
now
down.
do your children now
Yes.
pull you in a different direction? You know, like I find myself canceling tea times at the golf course to go play with my grandchildren. You know what I mean? It's like
100%.
I'm like my car
Yeah.
drives to a different place because I'm like, I don't care about that right now. I want to go see my grandkids. You
The
know?
Saturday nights that I'm watching fights, I'm sitting at a cage or I have a live streaming job or something where I must be there. Otherwise, it'll happen when they're taking a nap or doing some other things. If I'm going to
You fill
consume
it in.
the UFC or the PFL fight or a boxing match on the weekend, I'm going to schedule it when I can, but I also want to give it 100% attention to see what I can extract from it and experience it and learn from it. I'm not going to play with my kids with the fights on in the background anymore.
Yeah.
But yes, the being present, being selective. What if I only live 20 more minutes or 3 more years?
So true.
It applies to every person.
So
What if you
true.
only lived 6 more weeks or 9 more years?
Oh,
It doesn't
it's
matter
so
what
true.
you call it.
So
What are you
true.
going to do with this moment? Like, are
Yeah,
you
yeah.
doing
Robin,
something with it? You know?
I absolutely. We could talk for hours, and Mark usually does this, but we have Mark give me crap the other day because I was going over. Robin, I absolutely love talking to you, and I love listening to your perspective. And I would love to know more about the Quiet River, and if you could share that on your social media whenever you're ready, because I know you said it's a work in progress and it's new, but I think that is such a useful tool. From what it sounds like that you've briefly described, I would love to know more about all of this on your socials, and if you could send us the information, because
I will.
I would love to
Yeah.
support that. And I love talking to you. I love listening to perspective on different things and your outlook on things. It kind of made me look back and be like, I never actually thought of it that way. So,
Yeah.
you know, I thank you for coming on again, because like you said, you don't come on many of these, and I appreciate
The great MMA philosopher, the just fight philosopher. You know, it's true. You've
Yeah.
always been that.
not MMA or fight. It's life too.
Yeah,
Like
life
there's
too.
a lot of
Thank you.
things that
Correct.
translate from. I mean, we didn't even get. I would love to know more about even, your transitions and stuff like that. So I hope you come on again at some point down the road when you do have time from all of the many things.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, we will.
this always seems to happen with Mark and I. We talk about life and perspective and philosophy and all of these things, and we never get to ask questions about like how you got to this
And
place.
don't ever want to ask you a question. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that now. It has to be that now. It has to be a conversation that just keeps
Yeah.
going. And it's like people start to realize that now with the podcast. They're like, oh wow, I watched the show. It was great. And I'm like, yeah, it's great because it's a conversation. And I need Robin Black to sit in his studio and go, I just want to talk about the stuff I'm doing and what you're doing and so on. And that's what works now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we have on a baseball player and we talk about baseball, I'm going to shoot myself. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to
Stop.
I don't want to talk about baseball. I want to
Yeah,
talk
I'm
about the
with you.
person. I want to talk about the
Yeah,
person.
I mean, everything's available on the internet, right? Every piece of information.
Yeah.
You can probably see everything. So you might as well, go a layer or two deeper. But I've got to jump too. But yeah, I'm going to share all that stuff with you guys. And school, SKOOL, school.com/Robin Black. That's where
Love
all that
that.
community, I'm building it now, but it's definitely what I'm most
I'll make sure we
excited
put
about.
it on all our stuff too because
Thanks,
it is
brother.
ultra important to share when people are doing great work or not even so great. Sometimes I share things that people that are putting in that effort. I really
Yeah.
love that. I love that people are putting in the effort. If I see the effort, I'll share it. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you're putting in the effort, man. It's a grind.
Yeah.
It is a grind. It's not just a grind. It's a grind. It's like
Yeah.
you got to do it.
Well, lots
Mark,
of
you
love.
gotta
Let's do
do
this
it,
again
'cause-
in a month
I
or
want
two.
to know. Mark always does this, and I don't want to let him because I can't wait for what you're gonna leave our audience. Mark, do your thing,
Yeah, Robin, I want you to
it
have the last
always.
word on the podcast today. I want you to kind of give the audience the version of the things that you found out in life that make sense to you now. What can you leave our audience tonight?
Well, from what we were talking about today, I really, really believe that most of us have way more agency in our life than we think we do. And the amount of hard work that we do and the amount of learning that we do and the amount of improving of the person, because you can improve your ability to improve your ability. And we can all definitely do that. And so I think we should all do that. Because we could be dead in 6 weeks. We could be dead in 4 hours. So the only objective of life is to actualize your potentialities, to actually become what you're capable of. So may we all do that today.
Fantastic.
Ah, love
Robin,
that. Thank
Robin,
you.
we can't thank you enough. We love you. And thank you for coming on the show. And we'll hope to see you soon again.
Appreciate you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
coming on.
Take care, buddy.
Thanks. I'm going to leave this open and go see how these kids are doing. It was great to meet you,
Yeah,
Jelena.
it was
And
nice
I'll see you
meeting
guys
you
again
as
soon.
well.
Lots of love.
Okay,
Yeah.
Lots of
buddy.
love.
Take
I'll see you
care.
later.
Take care.
So that has become, Mark, one of my favorite.
Yeah.
That has become one of my favorite things is when you ask our guests to leave us with a word. Like,
Yeah, yeah. You know what's crazy though? You're 100% correct. I didn't like with Robin Black. It's very, very, very difficult to keep track of time. You cannot,
and I
and
know
you
this.
did, and which was great because it's like literally, it goes on long, but it's not long, right? Because
No.
as you metamorphosize yourself into the conversation, it's like, oh my God. And I looked at the time just now as I put on glasses and went, oh, holy smokes. But that's
It
that's
was
what it is. That's what it
so,
is. Yeah. I'm
and I
glad.
could tell, and you know what you could tell is that you and Robin go way back,
Hmm.
and that you do have this relationship and commonality, and and he is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You undersold him to me because he was great, and we could have talked for hours.
He
And
really does have this perspective that's so much different than other
I
people.
loved, I
Yeah.
loved listening to it, and
Yeah.
like. Now I know how you feel being the bad guy cutting it off
No, I'm
today
glad.
and
No,
being
no,
like,
someone has to do it, right? So,
but
but
it has
yeah,
become. I just wanted to say this because so we don't go on too long.
yeah.
It has become my favorite part of our podcast is where you let our guests leave us with something,
Yes.
right? And I didn't want to let Robin go without doing it because it
Yeah,
has
I'm
become
glad.
my favorite part,
I'm glad.
and it's part like it always leaves me with a little bit more.
You know what's
Even though
funny?
we've
I
talked
never.
about the
This is
same
not
thing the
rehearsed
whole
though. This is
podcast.
this is not rehearsed. So nobody knows I'm doing that ever, right? And when I leave them with the
No.
last word, it amazes me that every guest has said something so profound off the top of the cuff. Just said, every time, like you imagine, I'm putting them on the spot every time, and they
Every
do it
time. And I am here for it.
yeah, they kill every time. And I'm like, wow, like I don't think people understand like how hard that is to do. And they do it every time on this show, on the Bustle It podcast. They do it. And I'm like, wow, like
Yeah. So I
every
could
time.
not let you go because I
Yeah.
know that you were in the zone, and
Yeah.
so I was like, hold on, Mark, do your thing because you say it the best way. I can't
Yeah,
do
of
it.
course. Of course. Well, listen,
So
everybody,
anyway,
we want to thank Crystal Glass, your clear choice for all your glass needs. And of course, Gems for Gems, dealing with domestic violence survivors. Please check that out today, everybody. Crystal Glass Canada and gemsforgems.com. And that's the lovely Jelena Marjinovich. I'm Mark Pavlich. We'll see you next Tuesday, everybody. New episode drops every Tuesday. Take care.